Hello horror fans! Today I am talking about a new 2026 horror film called Hokum, which came out in Australian cinemas yesterday and is directed by Damien McCarthy, who, if you know Damien McCarthy's previous films, you'll know of Oddity, and which from 2024, and then there was also Caveat, which I believe was 2020, and both of those films were really great, really eerie, creepy, great at building tension, and I'm just so excited to check this new one out. This one seems very fairy tale-esque horror folk, very eerie vibes, set in the woods, set in a haunted hotel, and this one follows Adam Scott, who plays a horror author, and he decides to go spread his parents' ashes in a remote part of Ireland, and he stays at a hotel, and the hotel is supposedly haunted by a witch, and there's also some creepy townsfolk and just weird shit going on. So as I said previously, anyone who's seen McCarthy's previous films, Oddity and Caveat, will know that Damien is really good at creating films that deliver slow building tension. Jump scares I don't think are cheap either in his first two films. And if this one does hit as well, I do think that Damien McCarthy will become one of my new favourite horror directors. I don't remember the last time we had a really creepy and suspense-driven witch-based horror film. I remember seeing the Blair Witch from 2016 at the cinemas. That actually really freaked me the fuck out. So I'm really keen to see where this one goes, because we don't have a whole lot of witch-based haunted forest films. I think that for a lot of horror fans, the Blair Witch will be one of the first one that comes to mind, but I'm really excited to see where this one goes. I've seen some of the trailers for this one and the visuals look really creepy, and I know from what I've seen in the trailers, I think some of the jump scares I might see coming, but as I've said in my previous videos, I just get really excited with films, horror films especially, and I just find that I have to watch the trailers because it just makes me more intrigued to see them. I did like Caveat, Damien's first film, but it definitely didn't hit as much as it did with Oddity for me. So I'm really hoping I like Hokum as much as I did Oddity. And I absolutely love fairy tale-esque horror films, you know, Pan's Labyrinth and The Ugly Stepsister. Those are two examples that I can think of at the top of my head. I just think we need more horror-based fairy tale films. I did mention in one of my previous videos that Hokum is one of my most anticipated films of the year. My third most anticipated film of the year. First was Evil Dead Burn, then there was The Mummy, and then third was Hokum. And I did mention that I really loved in Damien McCarthy's previous two films that he had Easter eggs in that connected both of the films. So I'm really hoping we get that with this one. So what am I expecting from this film? I think I'm expecting a really creepy, atmospheric folk horror film set in the forest, and I'm expecting some solid jump scares, some creepy scenes involving a witch, and being able to spend some time in this film with said witch. And I just think with horror films, a big thing for me when it comes to overall enjoyment of the film is with the antagonist slash villain, being able to get to know some of the lore involving the antagonist of the film and being able to spend some time with them in the film, and then also just a lot of carnage throughout. So hopefully we get that with this film. Jump scares, tension, carnage. So I will go watch this film. I will let you know my thoughts and whether or not it's worth seeing in the cinema. And hopefully we have a respectful audience, because I went to go see Michael last night, and what do you know, I had to move seats because this girl next to me was on her phone half the movie whispering to her friend. I'll do a video on this at some point, probably, of disruptive patrons and how fucking annoying they are and how it just makes me never want to go to the movies again. But anyway, rant over, I just had to mention that. I also have absolutely no idea what Hokum means. I'm very intrigued though. It does sound like it could be a really good title. Well, it is a really good title for a horror film, in my opinion. I don't know if it's got something to do with a relic of some kind, or if the witch has some sort of spell in this film that she calls Hokum, like she does some sort of chant. I don't know, that's just a guess. But I'm intrigued. I think there'll be a lot of mystery in this film. And should I Google it? Let's Google it. I'll find out if Hokum meaning comes up with anything. Right, so it just says Hokum refers to nonsense or insincere, exaggerated talk intended to deceive or amuse, originating around 1906. It could just mean something entirely different. I have no idea, but we'll watch it and we'll find out. So there was a roller coaster ride of a movie and a night out, actually. My boyfriend and I, as we were leaving the cinema, the whole shopping centre was getting evacuated because there was a fire. So all these crazy alarms were going off, and we decided to go up the escalators just outside the cinema because that's the direction in which our car was. And the security guards were walking the opposite direction to us. They didn't even tell us not to go up the escalators, but as we got to the top of the escalators, we saw all this smoke coming out from Time Zone, which was just at the top. And we were literally walking into the fire, basically, and we didn't even get stopped. So that was an experience. We had to come back down and go the long way around, but we didn't expect that coming out of the movie. So firstly, I didn't actually realize that this film was set on Halloween. I don't know if that's a spoiler. I don't think it is, but this film's set on Halloween. There's one scene where people are dressed up and there's a Halloween party going on, and I thought that was a really fun addition to this film. And I think that it would have been better if this film was released during October. I'm not complaining because the sooner the better. We get these awesome films. But yeah, I just think this would have been a really good horror release. But I just think, it's an even better excuse now to rewatch this over Halloween. So that's a fun little fact about this film. This definitely felt like more of an old school supernatural horror film, which had moments of dread and tension throughout. And I think that there was definitely some inspiration from previous horror films such as 1408, The Shining, and also even throughout I thought that Escape Room could have inspired this film too. I'm not too sure if that's true, but I did see some elements of Escape Room in this. And it definitely, of course, has some of the spooky vibes and elements from Damien's previous work as well. Although you can see the inspiration from Damien's other films in this, I don't think it felt derivative. I do think it felt original, and as I mentioned previously, I don't think we've ever had a horror film that's set in the woods in a hotel that's haunted by a witch. So I do think that this feels more original and will probably be one of the more original horror films we get this year. What's the matter? What are you doing under there, mister? Come on. Yes, my baby. Yes. Yes. For most of this film, we follow Ohm and the town's local hermit Jerry as they look for a way to break into the honeymoon suite in the hotel to look for another hotel employee who's gone missing. And prior to this happening, the honeymoon suite was actually unavailable due to one of the hotel employees actually being stuck inside the honeymoon suite with a witch. So Ohm and Jerry try to break into the honeymoon suite to find some clues as to what's happened to this missing person, only to discover that they get more than they bargained for. Like Damien's other films, I don't think that the jump scares in this felt cheap. They definitely earned their place in the film, and there was an effective build-up, I thought, to them with creepy imagery and tension. I think now we just have to accept that jump scares are always going to be a part of horror films, whether they're done good or not. I know they're not for a lot of people, jump scares, but I do think that if they're done well and if they have a good build-up and if they're crafted well, then they can be really effective and can be really fun in a horror film, even if they are expected. I found that in Damien's previous films and even in Hokum as well, there's moments and aspects of the film that we want to see expanded on, or at least I do anyway, and I'm sure a lot of other people found that watching his films. So in Oddity, for example, there's that life-sized golem figure that I think when people see that in the film, we want to see it come to life at some point, and we get that towards the end of the film. And the same thing happened in Caveat as well, I thought, with the dead woman in I think it was the basement, where she was found, and, wanting to see some creepy shit happen with her, and we got that as well. And then in Hokum, I won't go into too much detail, but there's some lore involving the witch at the start of the film that's explained, and we got to see it come to fruition at the end. I just wish that it was more shocking and scary than it was. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but If you've seen the film, this part involves some chains in an underground tunnel. If you know, you know. But overall, I was happy with the way it turned out, even though there was some questions left unanswered with the witch's history and how she works. There's a lot of creepy fixtures and ornaments in this film scattered throughout, and of course nods to Damien's previous work, which I was really happy with, as to seal his unofficial trilogy, I suppose. And the camera work in this film as well does a really great job at making you focus on these little creepy things and ornaments throughout, as to not make you miss any of them. Damien really knows how to craft a sense of mystery along with this ominous dread throughout his films. It's definitely shown here, and throughout this film's runtime you are sitting here wondering what on earth is I'm gonna find in this honeymoon suite that led to it being locked up. As mentioned, there definitely was elements of escape room in this, I thought, and you really felt like you were in Oma's shoes for most of the runtime, I found, in the honeymoon suite. And in saying that though, I couldn't have given a shit about what happened to Om, because he was a fucking asshole in this, and resents his fans and people who praise his work. But in saying that, again, you are wondering what on earth made him to be this much of a douchebag throughout the film. And he does seem to have a lot of trauma and regret throughout his life. Some of the plot twists in this film I actually missed because I was so caught up in the tension and mystery of it all, and again the camera work and the jump scares, and I was just honestly a lot of the time just wondering when this witch is going to pop up again, because I loved all the brief moments with her in this film. And so I don't want to give too much away as always, but I do think that if you can, you should see this film in a cinema. I do think that the best way to watch this film would be in a cinema by yourself if you can. Obviously, you know, watching films, especially horror films with a crowd, is always fun, but I think that if you're looking to get the most scares and the best effect out of this film, it's probably best to see it by yourself in a cinema. I was thinking that actually, that if I did, I would have been a lot more freaked out if I saw it by myself, and, you know, checking behind me and just wondering if someone's gonna grab my legs under the seat. I sometimes get that with films like this. But again, like, I think seeing it with a crowd would be fun as well. I really can't wait to see what Damien does next. I do think that he's gonna be one of the new big horror directors like Ty West and Jordan Peele, and even Lee Cronin as well, for those who really enjoyed Evil Dead Rise and The Mummy. I'm just really looking forward to, seeing his next work. And for someone who I don't really get spooked out or creeped out with a lot of horror films. I think I'm just so desensitized now, but I did find this one on a big screen really creepy and, again, really tension filled. I probably didn't like this one as much as Oddity, but I do think that, again, it seals Damien's unofficial trilogy, and I'm really happy about that, and I'm looking forward to rewatching this one again at home. Thank you for watching this video. I will have more reviews soon. It probably won't be for the next month or so just because I'm going away, but I do really appreciate you watching this video, and again, thank you for watching.